Hello, guys. Well, it's fight week. Fight week, Chisora versus Parker, and also Edwards versus Mthalane. I think I haven't butchered his name. I hope not. But we've got two really big fight nights. I think it's safe to say that probably the matchroom card, Chisora versus Parker, is the one that most people are most excited about and will be watching. But it's a bit of a shame that Sonny Edwards' world title fight is also gone under the rug because it's his first time challenging for a world title. It is one of the lower weights. It's the IBF World Flyweight title that he'll be challenging for, and it's against the world number one Ring Magazine champion, Moruti Mthalane, a South African. So that's really exciting. But before we get onto that, let's get into, I guess, the so-called bigger show and the one that everyone's talking about. So let's start with the main event: Chisora versus Parker. 12 rounds at heavyweight, no belt on the line, but two guys who I think everyone is familiar with by now. Joseph Parker, the former WBO world heavyweight champion, beating Andy Ruiz actually to win the title, and has also racked up a few decent wins against Hugh Fury, etc. But since that loss to Anthony Joshua, lost a very tight affair to Dylan White after, and then had a pretty was really out in the wilderness, to be honest with you, in terms of who was fighting. He fought like Shondell Winters, people like that, and it just wasn't particularly exciting. He was supposed to fight Chisora a while back and then got a spider bite. And then in between that, I guess that scenario and also the fight now, he fought Junior Farr in a all Kiwi clash, which a lot of people thought he was actually very lucky to win. Since then, he's changed his trainers. As we know, he's now brought on Andy Lee, who has links to Tyson Fury. So after that underwhelming performance against Junior Farr, which again, as I said, a lot of people thought he potentially could have lost actually and should have lost, he reached out to Tyson Fury and he's now linked up with Andy Lee. So he's left his old and long-standing trainer Kevin Barry and on mutual terms and amicable terms from what both have said, which is nice to see, and just got a fresh start. So he's in Ireland, based in Ireland, and with Andy Lee. So that's really interesting. On Dereck Chisora's front, I mean, he's actually employed Buddy McGirt, who's a really extremely experienced and talented trainer. Actually said he's never seen Dereck Chisora fight, but to be fair, I don't think he'd ever seen Kovalev fight as well when he took him on as well, from what I know. So he is just extremely learned in the sport of boxing and the art of and skill of the craft as well. So he is just a great addition. But then in saying that, which we'll touch upon, how much of an impact will he have? Okay, let's look at it from a black and white point of view then. So Dereck Chisora, Joseph Parker. First of all, how is Dereck Chisora the A side? Because Joseph Parker is a former world heavyweight champion, but Dereck Chisora just tends to bring in those numbers. Coming off that, very, I think it was a comfortable win for Usyk, but it was an uncomfortable win in terms of the way he won, which I've just contradicted myself. But it was a win that Usyk definitely won, but it was an uncomfortable win, let's say. Let's rephrase that. So Usyk coming through that fight with Dereck Chisora. Chisora actually in some spurts was fighting in southpaw, actually was quite effective at times, and the engine was pretty unreal, to be honest with you. And yes, he's not going to be the most pleasing to watch in terms of boxing IQ and ability, but he's a rough house and he's just a pressure fighter. And I don't think there's much to change with him. It's just on his day, he can probably be a menace for anyone. So, yeah, that's him. Joseph Parker, as most people will know, when he was coming up, he was about speed, power, fast hands, knocking people out, and yes, more of a kind of orthodox boxer. But a lot of people think he may have lost his edge, I guess, after winning the world title. I've heard a few boxing podcasts, Boxing Rant, for example, or Boxing Rant. They're really funny, actually, but they definitely had a point, and they said maybe he's lost a bit of that killer instinct. Once you've gone to the top of the hill, sometimes it's hard to go to the well again and think, you know what, I really want this. And how much does he really want it? And I think with Joseph Parker, it's more a mental block rather than a potentially physical block. Although against Shondell Winters, he looked pretty heavy. They were trying to get more power, I think, in his punches because he was struggling to really throw the right hand. I know he's had issues with his right hand as well, surgery, etc., on the elbow, I think, from if I'm not mistaken. But let's see. I mean, it's a really intriguing fight. So they've just done a like meetup as well, breakfast. I just watched it on IFL TV, and Chisora and Parker are having breakfast together, which is really funny. Now they're talking about the fight and saying, Dereck Chisora is saying, I'm going to knock you out. Just Parker saying, I'm going to knock you out. But they're actually chatting about their kids and whatnot, which is pretty weird, to be honest with you. Parker saying, I've never had breakfast with my opponent. But from a tactical point of view, realistically, we know what Chisora's going to do. I mean, I know Buddy McGurt's in the corner. The only thing that I can see Buddy McGirt really giving Chisora is good advice in the corner. I don't think there's going to be wholesale changes or much different, if I'm being honest with you, because Chisora is so old now, so experienced. To try and change how he fights is very difficult. What they did and what David Hayes done, which is really impressive, is they just took his style and said, look, we'll take a style but make you a lot fitter so you're able to go 12 rounds and you've got a good engine. And that is the biggest improvement, I think, that we've seen lately. But in terms of actually changing his style, etc., and adapting it, I would be surprised. But let's see. I mean, he did go southpaw for a little bit against Usyk, which is really interesting. But let's see. Let's see. I'm expecting Chisora to just come out and pressure him for basically 12 rounds and be ready to go big with those swinging hooks, head down, swinging hooks to the body, to the head, and just get to work, really. That's what I think he's going to do. Joseph Parker now, he can go one of two ways, I think. He can either try and box a move and kind of pop the jab. He should, from what I know, have a reach advantage, so he should be able to pop the jab, move, and if he's not super heavy like he looked like he was against someone like Sean Winters, he was a bit heavy. He looked a bit heavy against Junior Ford. Didn't look in the best of shape. So I think that's something he can improve on his gas tank as well. But yeah, if he can just make sure they can pop the jab, move around, and actually, throw that right hand as well effectively, then he can definitely, I think, hold Chisora off at times, and he's got power and fast enough hands to do that. Now, whether he has that killer instinct is another issue. So that's why it is such an intriguing fight, because yes, it's not for a world title, and yes, it's not an elite fight, but I think it's quite evenly matched because Dereck Chisora has a lot of momentum despite losing to Usyk. He's got a lot of momentum, I'll tell you that now. Joseph Parker he was going downhill. Now he's linked up with Andy Lee, and Andy Lee's from what I've heard and what everyone tells me, obviously was a very good fighter, but from what everyone says, and clearly, he worked with Tyson as well, Sugar Hill Stewart, everyone's saying that Andy Lee is this guy who just lives and breathes boxing and really knows his stuff technically and also just streetwise as well. Like, he's very, very intelligent, and his boxing IQ is really up there. And he's also worked with someone like Adam Booth in the past, who we know also has that reputation of being very advanced in his boxing, I guess, knowledge. So yeah, if you were to press me for a prediction, I would probably say it's difficult. I think you have to lean towards the former world champion Joseph Parker and hope that, look, having been refreshed with Andy Lee, it will make a difference and he'll get him out of there maybe, or go to points. I'm trying to think. I think realistically we'll probably get a Joseph Parker close points win. If he manages to knock Chisora out later on, that would be quite impressive. Even if he knocks him at any point, I think that's quite impressive, because the only person to do it, from what I know, is Dillian White, which was a huge shot. Absolutely huge. Dereck Chisora, I mean, he definitely has the ability to knock Parker out. Although in saying that, Parker's never been knocked out. He's been dropped but never been knocked out. So two guys with pretty iron chins. I think it's going to be a war. And yeah, I reckon it's going to go to points. And Joseph Parker, for me, edging a points decision there. But look, who knows? I should also be live streaming it, the card, at least most of the card anyway, but definitely the main event as well. So keep an eye out for that. Okay, let's touch upon the rest of the card because I don't want to go too long on this. Katie Taylor versus Natasha Jonas, the 12 rounds for Katie Taylor's WBC, WBO, IBF, and WBA women's lightweight titles. It's interesting because at first I thought this is going to be really one-sided, and Katie Taylor, we know, is really, I mean, I guess alongside Clarissa Shields, is the pound-for-pound best fighter in women's boxing. And it's funny because a lot of people say that at times maybe she overtrains, and that's why she hasn't looked at her sharpest, maybe against, for example, the bassoon fights, etc. Let's see. Natasha Jonas, though, definitely has had a new lease of life, hasn't she? I think, at one point it looked like she might just pack it in. She had that really surprising loss, kind of early-ish in her pro career, and then yeah, she's rebuilt. Had that really impressive draw against Terry Harper, which a lot of people thought she won. I thought she probably nicked it, to be honest with you. Now she's moving up one weight division to lightweight, from what I know, against Katie Taylor. Now, this is an interesting one because they fought twice before, once in the Olympics, once in the amateurs. Katie Taylor winning both. Very exciting fights. We know what Katie Taylor's going to bring. It's going to be volume punching. It's going to be very accurate, come forward. Natasha Jonas needs to be quite clever. Now, she fought very well in the pocket against Terry Harper. If she can do that and really kind of ward off Katie Taylor, then it'll be an interesting fight. I don't see a knockout. I think it's going to be a points win. And I reckon it's quite hard to go against Katie Taylor, to be honest with you. She's got some favourable cards in the past, probably against pursuing that first card. A lot of people thought that first fight, they thought she potentially lost that one. Second one, I thought she slightly edged it, but some people thought she lost that one as well, to be fair. So, yeah, let's see. But I reckon Natasha Jonas will give a very good account of herself. Whether she can beat Katie, I think, look, if she has an extremely good night and Katie doesn't have her best, I reckon it can happen. But I think there's a slight difference in class, I would say. But you never know. You never know. Both Olympians, aren't they? So, and fought in the Olympics, as I said. So clearly very good fighters. And I would actually like to see Natasha Jonas win. I just think it'd be nice to have that type of upset in boxing. The only thing that I would say is, yeah, because realistically, I think Katie Taylor was going to fight Cecilia Breakhouse, but she lost, and then she lost the rematch as well to Jessica McCaskill. So there isn't that fight being set up. So I think realistically, like Katie Taylor is, if she had a fight lined up, I'd say fine, like against a super fight, but she doesn't. So I'd like Jonas to win it, actually. Why not? Nice little underdog story, but I reckon, yeah, Katie Taylor on points. Pretty boring, isn't it? I've gone for two pretty, I think, wide. Well, I've gone for two quite easy predictions. Right, okay, the third one on the card is Dmitry Bivol. I'm really looking forward to seeing him fight. I've seen some of him, but I've heard so much about him as well. And just seeing him, I haven't seen him in a live fight. I've always seen him in fights after or highlights. Him versus Craig Richards for 12 rounds for Bivol's WBA light heavyweight title. Now, this is a huge step up for Craig Richards, by the way. He's just won the British title against Shakan Pitters. This is crazy. Now, Craig Richards is 31 years old, I think. So I guess if you're given this opportunity, you take it. This is just going to be a single swim, I think. Now, Dmitry Bivol hasn't fought in 18 months. So the only way I see Craig Richards not getting knocked out in the first 6 rounds, and it sounds really harsh, but I'm just being honest, is if Dmitry Bivol is rusty, like really rusty because of that 18-month layoff. It's interesting though because Craig Richards, I think a lot of people underestimate him, and who knows, he could even take Dmitry Bivol to 12. I just can't see him winning. I don't think he's superior in his boxing ability to Dmitry Bivol. Can he knock Bivol out? He showed some power, didn't he, against Shakan Pitters, but Dmitry Bivol, I don't know what his chin's like, but from what I've seen, it looks pretty iron. So let's see. But I don't know. I reckon this is going to be a win and a knockout victory for Dmitry Bivol, maybe mid to late on, I would say. I think he'll take a couple of rounds to just assess Craig Richards and maybe get a feel into the fight. And then once he has, I reckon he'll just go to work. And I reckon I'll get him out of there. But again, look, if Craig Richards wins, what a win that would be, by the way. Unbelievable. And he would have done something that none of the other so-called amazing prospects coming out of the UK or amazing fighters in that lightweight division have done. Light heavyweight division, even have done. Like you've got Callum Johnson, who fought Beterbiev but lost, and is now looking for another world title fight, which I'd say he's probably at the top. Then you've got Joshua Boatsy, Anthony Yard, you've got Shakan Pitters, you've got Lyndon Arthur. Like all these guys are doing bits, but none of them are doing what Craig Richards is doing here, challenging against the WBA light heavyweight title. The light heavyweight title champion in Dmitry Bivol. Now, of course, Anthony Yard did it, and Callum Johnson have fought against two champions as well, but that was a bit of time ago now. So I think this is pretty impressive from Craig Richards to step up. And I would say, is it as much of a step up as Anthony Yarde? It probably is, but there just isn't as much hype around Craig Richards, which is why it's seen as an even bigger step up. And Anthony Yarde was this kind of machine that they built. BT with Craig Richards, they haven't done that. So yeah, interesting, very very interesting. He only has one loss as well to Frank Buglioni, which I think he had very very short notice for that fight, but since has had some really impressive wins domestically. So this is a huge step up, but all the best to him. And look, man, I mean, hope he does it. What a win. But yeah, I'll go Dmitry Bivol later on. James Tennyson versus Jovanni Straffon. That's for 12 rounds for the IBO lightweight title. A lot of people don't really, I guess, associate the IBO with being a legitimate belt, but James Tennyson was really impressive last time out, blowing out his opponent. And to be honest with you, and it's crazy, but I don't know if you guys remember, Johnny Nelson said that he would knock out Gervonta Davis, which is absolutely crazy, by the way. But he said that he'd beat Gervonta Davis, carnage. So yeah, he beat Josh O'Reilly, who was unbeaten, 16-0. Took him out in style. Before that, beat Gavin Gwynn in fight camp for the British lightweight title. He's doing bits, man. I mean, since I think moving up to lightweight, he looks really good. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does as well. He's so powerful, got power in both hands, and Eddie Hearn's really high on him, and don't blame him, to be fair. Right, in terms of the others then, so Chris Eubank Jr. versus Marcus Morrison, 10 rounds of middleweight. So this is supposed to be a tune-up fight or run-out for Eubank Jr. before trying to get the so-called bigger names in Gennady Golovkin, I guess Charlo, etc. He's been calling out Gennady Golovkin for years, but it's now started to intensify again, him calling him out. But look, he needs to get past Marcus Morrison. He had quite an impressive win in Italy to get himself globally ranked in his last fight. 10 rounds here. He's going to be coached and trained by Roy Jones Jr. is Chris Eubank Jr., which a lot of people will know. And Roy Jones Jr. There's been a lot of fever around him because most people are, I think, more excited to see Roy Jones Jr. and interview him than Eubank Jr., which I think Eubank Jr. has probably just accepted that that's the fact. He does have respect, I think, for Roy Jones Jr., so I don't think there's an issue there. Then, I guess, to finish up, again, with those two fights, James Tennyson, I reckon he knocks out Jovanni Straffon late on. Chris Eubank Jr., I reckon he knocks out Marcus Morrison in the late rounds as well. Campbell Hatton versus to be announced, so don't know yet. 4 rounds of junior lightweight. Obviously didn't have a very good debut. A lot of talks around him not emulating his father and he's not going to make it. There's a lot of really bad criticism, which I think is really harsh because someone cited Conor Benn, and I think that was a really good comparison. Conor Benn, when he first started, looked horrendous. Now look at him. I mean, he just beat Samuel Vargas in 1 round. So look, if Campbell Hatton keeps on working at it and works hard, I see no reason why he cannot improve and become better. Can he be a world beater? Maybe not, but let's wait and see. It's only been 1 fight, so I don't think it's the end of the world. So let's see if he can perform slightly better in this fight, and I'm sure he will. Nice little showing. And then we've also got something which is really exciting. Scott Fitzgerald, 6 rounds at junior middleweight. Now, Scott Fitzgerald, this is a fighter even, who's had his issues in the past, obviously. I remember watching this Anthony Fowler, and if Anthony Fowler's watching this, apologies, because I do want to get him on for an interview. But I was really cheering for him to beat Anthony Fowler, because at the time, Anthony Fowler came across as, for me, really arrogant. He's definitely become more humbled, I think, and maybe a bit misunderstood. But yeah, came across really arrogant, just saying to Scott Fitzgerald, I'm a level above, and Scott Fitzgerald, boxed really well in that fight, and then dropped Anthony Fowler as well, which I think got him the fight nicked. Definitely made sure he nicked it. Now, that division is so hot. Ted Cheeseman is probably at the top of it. I reckon, beating JJ Metcalf recently. You've got Ted Cheeseman, JJ Metcalf, Scott Fitzgerald, Anthony Fowler. Who have I missed out? What's his name? Kieran Conway. Yeah, there's a lot, man. There's a lot of Sam Eggington. There's loads of good fighters domestically there now. Scott Fitzgerald needs to get in that mix again and then try and move past them. But it's going to be tough because there's a lot of good fights there for probably decent money. I think he's talked about fighting Anthony Fowler again because a lot of people are saying, you know what, Anthony Fowler could beat you now. And he's just like, you know what, I want to go in there and do it better. They did an interview with him and he looks very, very pale. Now, a lot of people are saying actually he sounds better because his voice has definitely changed. It's less husky, so apparently that's because he's like been clean for quite a long time. But his face, he just looked quite gaunt and very pale, and I was just it was a bit of a weird one. It didn't sit well with me. I thought he doesn't seem quite right, but hopefully he is all okay, and hopefully he just gets in there, does the business, and there's no issues. But yeah, it was a bit strange, but I'm sure he'll be fine. Okay, I'm very briefly then just going to touch upon the Sonny Edwards versus Moruti Mthalane fight. So Sonny Edwards fighting, as I said, the #1 and Ring Magazine champion Moruti Mthalane for the IBF World Flyweight title. He's 39-2, Sonny Edwards unbeaten. Now Sonny Edwards is just going to look to outbox him. I think that's what he's going to have to do, and Moruti Mthalane is going to try and knock him out late. I think that's what I've got there. That's on BT Sport. Okay, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys coming, and please do remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, share with all your mates. Hit the notification button as well. Sorry, to get alerted to all the new videos. But yeah, that Sonny Edwards one, don't sleep on that fight, guys. Do not sleep on it because I'll probably have that like separately on a screen somewhere whilst I'm live streaming the Dereck Chisora and Joseph Parker fight because that's going to be a really good fight. Really looking forward to it. It's a shame that there's a clash, and I know that happens, but yeah, it's a shame. Anyways, thank you very much, guys. See you on the next video. And as I said, yeah, please do remember to subscribe and click the notification bell as well to get alerted to all new videos. Thank you very much.